Hello and welcome to Connect, the weekly podcast for the California MBA, featuring one-on-one interviews with movers and shakers in the mortgage industry. I'm Susan Milazzo, CEO of the California MBA, and very happy that you can join us today. Before I get to welcoming today's guest, I'd like to thank our 2023 President's Council sponsors. These are a group of companies that provide a tremendous amount of financial support for our organization, among other things, so that we can continue to be a strong voice for the real estate finance industry before our state legislature and our regulators. So join me in thanking our 2023 President's Council sponsors. And those companies are AmeriHome, Arch MI, Consolidated Analytics, Funding Shield, Guild Mortgage, Accelerate, Rocket Mortgage, and Western Alliance Bank. Thank you all so much for your support in 2023. And with that, I'd like to welcome today's guest, somebody that I've known in the industry for some time now. Welcome to David Doyle with Sagent. David, welcome.
Thank you very much, Susan. This is fun, and thanks for having me.
Yeah. So I always kind of like to start with a little background, so you introduce yourself and give us a little bit information about your role at Sagent.
Sure. I joined Sagent nearly 4 years ago in the sales and business development function. At the time, Sagent was a relatively new startup being carved out of Fiserv. And so it's been a really interesting experience, going to market with an established firm with over 30 customers and a fairly mature product with our servicing platform, but then having very much the company construct of a startup and all the energy that comes with that. So it's really been fun.
Yeah, that's it's nice to start out. You got a little bit of background, but you're still, it's still fresh and new and starting out. So right. Great that you had that experience to kind of be at the start of it all. So what initially got you into lending and financial services, and how has that space changed over the years? This is a never-ending changing market for sure.
Yeah, I spent the first several years of my career in the advertising agency business. And I managed accounts, everything from industrial equipment and computer technologies to the Baskin-Robbins ice cream account. And many different things in between. And at one point, I was assigned to manage the advertising account for Security Pacific National Bank. And that's where I really fell in love with retail banking. So checking, savings, mortgages, home equity loans and lines of credit, and products like that, and supporting the 5-state franchise of what was at the time Security Pacific National Bank, which was eventually acquired by the Bank of America. After several years in the ad agency business, I got an opportunity to move to Countrywide Home Loans and run marketing there. And so that was just after Countrywide had become the largest lender in the nation. And so I was very much a part of that growth story. And after a few years of running marketing at Countrywide, my role evolved into one of loan originations and production, taking over the prime consumer direct division for Countrywide and running that for several years.
That's you've had an interesting career path. I don't know that I've ever had ice cream included in anybody's path to the mortgage industry. So that's a first for me on this program, David. That's
well, there's a way to sort of articulate in that contrast the connection I have to housing, which is the significance of the work in housing finance and what it means to people. There's a similarity to ice cream, right? Helping somebody enjoy an ice cream cone and having somebody buy a house, both of those things make you happy, but one lasts longer than the other. And the significance of what the housing finance industry does for people and for families and for communities, it's off the charts. And that's really what made me fall in love with the business quite some time ago, and stayed with it ever since. There are a lot of things about the industry that have changed.
Yeah.
over time, right? Technology has certainly been a huge factor. And the advent of Dodd-Frank and the growth of laws, rules, and regs, and the ability of regulators to enforce those rules. All those things have changed and grown for the most part. But the thing that really hasn't changed much in the business is the borrower experience. I recall being exposed to consumer research and the borrower experience many years ago. And it was characterized by, I don't understand all the terms, the technicalities of the financial transaction are confusing. The way that the truth in lending explains things is confusing to me. I can't begin to understand my HUD-1, right? And those things, and as well as a process that's got an extended cycle time to it, with borrowers sort of going step by step through the process and never really understanding what's around the next corner. So they get surprised. And regrettably, I think regrettably for our industry, despite so many efforts, right, from a good faith estimate to a loan estimate, from a HUD-1 to a closing disclosure, things really haven't improved much with respect to the borrower experience. And it's still a bit of an intimidating experience for borrowers. And I think that's a bit regrettable, and something that the industry needs to continue working very hard on.
Yeah, good point. And speaking of, home ownership and the joy of owning a home, I know that, top of mind for everyone right now is kind of everyone's kind of forecast or outlook for 2024. So I'd love to hear kind of what you're anticipating for next year, including some headwinds, where some opportunities might be for the industry.
It's hard to look at the industry right now and say there's a lot of good things ahead in 2024. Rates are high, inventory is really low, credit's pretty tight, and you've got the level of activity in the industry is somewhat depressed, right? You take the high rates and the low inventory, and that really are the primary explanations for why the MBA purchase index is running at 38% of its 10-year trailing average. And we've got related impacts on employment in the mortgage industry. I think mortgage industry employment is down over 20% over the last couple of years. But the other side of the coin is the remarkable resiliency of the American homeowner. Borrowers figure out how to adjust to the industry conditions that they see. If rates are high, they think through the adjustable rate mortgage solution, or they buy less house, or they select a different neighborhood. The motivation that people have to acquire a home, and then also some of the practicalities associated with, hey, I just got a new job, it's in a different area, and I need to move. And I need to move whether rates are at 3.5% or 7%. And so, I will simply adjust to those market conditions, maybe select a different mortgage product or buy a little bit less house. But I'll make it happen. And that's reflective of the resiliency of American homeowners and the way that customers figure things out when they need to. I also think that the market conditions today really point up the significance of the role and responsibility of the two basic units of distribution within the industry, right? You have a real estate agent that controls the real estate transaction and orchestrates everything about that. And you have the loan officer that orchestrates the financing. And those two primary roles in the housing finance system, I think they've never been more important than they are today, right? For the realtor to provide really good advice on how to shop, where to shop, and the circumstances that characterize an effective transaction for the buyer. And the loan officer, right, to make sure that access to credit, cost of credit are in place to support that transaction, and that the loan officer really knows how to work a loan program guide right? Work a product line and work a rate sheet to find the solution that's really going to work for the borrower. The role and the responsibility of the realtor and the loan officer, they're always critical. They don't go away, despite so many efforts to disintermediate both. They've never really gone away, and I think they've never been more important than they are today, given the market conditions that characterize the industry right now.
Right. All important in any market, but especially the market that we're, the year that we're going into in 2024. I think that's good observations. Probably many parts across the country, David, but especially in California, affordability is a very serious problem and barrier for some home buyers. So how can lenders help a home buyer navigate home affordability?
The lender can help in a significant way by really training their loan officers, right? For taking the product managers and the capital markets people within the organization and making sure that there is a highly effective knowledge transfer so that the lending officers, they understand their product line, they understand their rate sheet, and they know how to knit solutions to borrowers, and they leave nothing on the table. There are so many bond programs and down payment assistance programs and other ways that customers can unlock the right financing solution that makes them successful in a market like today. But if the loan officer doesn't know about it, or they're not well trained, or they have an aversion to a certain solution because, gosh, those are hard to close. Those are really, there are a lot of work and a lot of documentation that's extraordinary to the customary transaction. If those sorts of things are left aside because of inadequate loan officer knowledge and training, that's a disadvantage to the borrower. So I think lenders, institutions have a responsibility to put loan officers into the marketplace that are super well trained and super knowledgeable about the products and the rate solutions that they have at their fingertips.
Good. Yeah. Digging into all the products that are available to help the borrowers. I think that's very, very, very important. So what, from a technology standpoint, what trends in technology do you see standing out as we enter the new year?
I think it is a trend of reconciliation of technology. Companies have a propensity to solve non-technological problems with technology solutions. And certainly, robust markets like we experienced in 2020 and 2021, right, throws off a lot of revenue, throws off a lot of profit, and a lot of companies tend to invest some of that back in the business in the form of technology. So there can be a propensity to overspend on technology as well. And now, a lot of institutions are operating with lots of different technologies, lots of different point solutions that may be disparate, that may represent individual solutions to individual problems that might not even be technological in nature. And companies need to reconcile all of that and re-examine their technology stacks to understand what's really working, right. Are my people using it? What's really working? What's creating value for the organization? But then also, importantly, understand what's not working, what suffers from low adoption, what's not creating value in the process, and edit. We're generally lousy editors, right? We tend to add lots of things, but we don't really take things away frequently. And so you do have some institutions with overly complex operating environments, a potpourri of point solutions that populate their ecosystem, and with very disparate levels of adoption and value creation among all those solutions. Lenders and servicers need to reconcile all those tools, strip away the things that are excess and not creating value so that their people can deliver for borrowers and for homeowners in a really elegant way, not one that's confusing and has got people, moving from environment to environment through a single business process. I think that's a very significant trend for 2024 and beyond.
Yeah, get lean and efficient. That would be able to be reviewing what you've got to reach that goal, right?
Yes, and have the courage to edit and strip away the things that aren't creating value, also the technologies that may be dated, right? There is also a tendency, an aversion to change can breed the tendency to stay with dated technologies beyond their appropriate shelf life, right? And sometimes what makes the most sense for an institution is acknowledge the dated nature of technology, rip the Band-Aid off, and make the change.
Exactly. My next question, you kind of mentioned this earlier when you were talking about just the downsizing of the mortgage, market from an employee standpoint. But, as, when it comes to recruitment, retention, what should lenders, servicers, fintech partners alike be considering as we enter 2024, to attract the right individuals to their companies? There might be a lot of people out there, making a move or interested in making a move, but how do you find that right fit for a company?
Yeah, I think it's the premium on discipline and diligence as it relates to people, I think, is really high. The industry is dealing with a fundamentally much smaller pie, right? Originations are severely constrained and margins are compressed. And so the revenues thrown off by the originations segment of the business are way down, and then the servicing revenues are in fact fairly robust and represent an effective revenue hedge for many institutions, but also that's not a segment of the business that experiences a lot of margin expansion and contraction. The servicing strip is fairly consistent in the revenues that it throws off. So as a result of those factors, the industry is just fundamentally dealing with a smaller pie. So the way that we acquire people, pay for people, invest in people, those investments need to be smarter because you can't afford to miss, as much as you could afford to miss in 2020 and 2021. So the rigor around the identification of top talent, the investment in top talent, the retention in top talent is super important to the success of institutions. Because despite all of the technology and all of the advancement that our industry has experienced, we know the truth that good people are the primary factor in quality institutions that are driving responsible lending and sustainable home ownership for the industry.
Yeah, excellent point. Excellent point. So we're rounding out the 2023 year, and I know that Sagent had a participant in our Future Leaders program this year, which we redesigned. Very proud of how it came off. I was just interested to hear what your thoughts were from your participants' participation.
Well, I just finished talking about making quality investments in top talent and how important that is. And I can't think of a better example of us making a high quality investment than the investment we made in putting Will Gale into the California MBA's Future Leaders program. I can tell you that he was super energized by his experience. Both his opportunity to interact with leaders of the California mortgage industry he was just really pumped up about that. His participation with the small group and the competition to create a mortgage company from the ground up, and then have that team-based process culminate in the live presentations that they made to the California MBA Board of Directors last week. The learning, the acceleration, the energization of Will through that process, it all added up to a great investment by Sagent and one that we would be more than happy to make again.
Wow, that is tremendous feedback. Thank you so much. We were so proud of how the program shaped up, but you don't know until you go through it. So thank you for that feedback. We're excited to kick off registrations for our 24 program here. So hopefully we'll have another participant from Sagent.
You should expect high demand.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And David, thank you for being a guest on Connect. This has been great.
It's been my pleasure, Susan. Happy holidays.
And thanks to all of you for joining us today on Connect. To access any of our past episodes, you can follow us on our YouTube channel. We're also available on SoundCloud, Apple Podcast, and Spotify. That's it for this week, and we'll see you next time on Connect.